All right. Good morning, everyone. Alex Caputo-Pearl, the president of United Teachers Los Angeles. It is Friday, April 17th, and I hope you all had a great week. Given the circumstances, we're in unprecedented times with the global pandemic. So glad that our educators, parents, and students are joining us, and community allies are joining us on these Facebook Live broadcasts that are getting out lots of information and continuing to build the movement that we need during not just a global pandemic, but an economic recession and possible depression that we're going to have to do some real work to make sure that public schools, public services, social services not just survive, but thrive through this period. So we love you. We support you. Our students, you are the heart of public education, our youth. So know that we love you and support you. Parents, we know you're going through a lot. Our educators, our great UTLA members, you're going through a lot. We're going to make it. We're going to make it through this together. So let's just start off. Yesterday, I had a great experience with the Huntington Park High School UTLA chapter. They were holding a virtual Zoom chapter meeting. There were about 50 people in that Huntington Park High School chapter meeting. It was fantastic. They were using that chapter meeting exactly the way you should use a chapter meeting. They were talking about building their chapter action team to make sure that they have one leader for every 10 members, organized by department, so that you can get information out quickly and information back quickly. We need that structure at every single school in these unprecedented times to be able to react well and to be able to be proactive well. So they were using their chapter meeting for that. They were also using their chapter meeting to talk about an issue that was coming up their local school leadership council about bell schedules for next year. Perfect use of that chapter meeting. I loved the fact that a few different people had strike photos behind them as their background for Zoom. So it was really great being with Huntington Park High School, and I hope to get out virtually to many other schools just like that. Second thing, use the side letter that we negotiated. It's a 6-page agreement. It's easy to carry around with you in your pocket so that you can use it and refer to it whenever you need to. Remember, we have a union, and because we have a union and a strong union and an organized union, we were in terms and conditions during this global pandemic, and that's what the 6-page side letter is. Use that side letter. I was on a Zoom call yesterday with 80 chapter chairs across the West Valley, the West San Fernando Valley. And I loved the fact that when I said use that side letter, I saw a few people raise up their side letter onto the Zoom screen, showing me that they were referring to it daily. So next week, we will get an enforcement guide for chapter chairs out to all chapter chairs. So if you're a chapter leader, look for that enforcement guide for the side letter. If you're not a chapter leader, make sure you talk to your chapter chair about it. So let me go over a few hot topics here. Number one, professional development. We got what we were pushing for on professional development. Buettner sent out a video and a letter last night. We had been pushing for an extension of those professional developments, the one that you did on March 27th, and then the 4 that you had to complete. Their original date had been April 4th. We got it moved to April 17th. Now it's moved to April 30th. So we got what we wanted, that extension, so you have more time to work on those professional developments. And Buettner added a $500 for everyone who finished it already and everyone who will finish it before April 30th. He also talked about an optional 30 additional hours where on distance learning, where you can also earn $1,000 more if you want to do that. So the punchline on professional development, we got what we wanted in terms of the extension. The district realized, I want to give Buettner and the district credit, they realized how difficult this had been for many people. So they threw something else in, that $500, which isn't going to hurt anybody. It's going to help. And they're frankly looking at, we could be in this shelter in place for quite a while. And so they're looking at professional development, more professional development, that 30 hours that is voluntary, it's optional. They're looking at putting that out there, and they've put that out there in a way that is consistent with the side letter. The side letter says that any professional development past April 30th has to be optional or voluntary. So it's good that following the guidelines of the side letter that we negotiated last week. Second big issue, hot topic, grading. Memo at secondary level, and no ones given at elementary level on the 15-week or 20-week report card. Okay, this was not a bargained part of the side letter. We did not bargain this as part of the side letter that we have. However, there was some informal conversation about it when we were in that bargaining. This is a district decision. The decision about Fs and ones is a district decision. It's a district decision on how they roll that out, when they roll that out, when they let the public know about that. We might have done it differently, but it's a district decision on how they're doing that. But frankly, the punchline is that the policy is justified. We believe that the policy is justified. We believe that in a school district where there are 85% low-income students who are dealing with things that we just cannot imagine, either not having a place in a tiny cramped apartment to actually do distance learning work, or actually a job right now because their parents have been laid off, or having to take care of their siblings because their parent is out hustling for different jobs or ways to make, or just not having the equipment, the internet, the computer, etc. And on top of all that, not having the human connection that is the face-to-face human connection that is fundamental to learning. When you put those 5 factors together, it does make sense not to fail students and not to give students ones during an global pandemic. So the policy is justified. It's not part of the side letter. The district is rolling it out the way they want to roll it out. We might have done it differently, but frankly, the policy is justified. On the issue of Ds at the secondary level, remember, there is a process. It says check in with the student, notify the counselor, and notify the administrator. Do your best at that. Remember, that's part of the reason that in the side letter, we negotiated for there only to be 1 required meeting per week. No more professional developments unless it's as that 1 hour of meetings per week. The reason why we negotiated that, you can spend your time with students and with your families and taking care of yourself. So that process with Ds of checking in with the student, checking in with the counselor, checking in with the administrator, we put guardrails on meetings and other busy work so that you could do things like that. I know that's going to be a challenge in some cases. You all know I've been a teacher. I've had my share of students who earned Fs and Ds. So I know this is a challenge, but use meetings and other busy work to be able to take the time to do that. Next hot topic. We've seen this coming up a lot on our social media feed, and we follow our social media feed religiously to be able to respond to your questions. Layoffs and cuts. So I want everybody to listen in on this, the potential of layoffs and cuts. We have to be on this. And it's part of the reason that I was so happy that Huntington Park High School was using their chapter meeting to build their chapter action structure, to go through department by department. Okay, who's going to be my union chapter action team leader in the history department? Who's going to be my union chapter action team leader in the English department? And actually methodically going through it so that we can get information out and information back very easily. We need that because battle around cuts and layoffs. I don't need to remind you about the statistics. It is over 22 million people now in the United States on unemployment. That doesn't even count people who either haven't filed for unemployment but aren't working, or are part of the informal economy where they don't feel like they can come out and file for unemployment, whether they be undocumented workers or whatever. So million, add a few million more onto that, and it keeps on growing. Gavin Newsom sent a letter to the other day, basically laying it out in writing that if there is not a federal injection of money into public education, there will be tens of billions of dollars cut from public education in California. Eric Garcetti, even though it's not schools, Eric Garcetti announced 2 days ago that there would be cuts to city workers in terms of jobs, furloughs, etc. It is out there in terms of just the economic recession and depression that we are headed into. And I'm here to tell you, folks, and I want you to think about this. In 2008, 2009, 2010, I want you to think about some of your images from that time when you saw your colleague next door laid off, when you saw class sizes increase, when you saw cuts to programs, where students were walking out, they were so upset about it, where you saw mass staff laid off and jumbled up, and schools becoming disorganized during that economic recession in 2008, 2009, and 2010. I want you to sit with that for a minute. And if you weren't here working with LUSD during 2008 through 2010, what it was like. We cannot go back to that. We cannot go back to that. We're going to have to fight to protect public education funding so that we don't have layoffs, we don't have cuts to student programs, build a broad movement with other organizations that are fighting not just for public education, but for health clinics, for no cuts to libraries and other things. We've got to reach out, number one, because our students need those things just as much as they need school. And number two, because reaching out to those coalition partners will make our movement stronger as we fight for no cuts. So we've got to get ready for that, build those chapter action team structures. Okay. Topic, special education. I'm going to get a drink of water here. Okay. My regular drink of water here in my dining room household. Special education. We know that there's concern about well-agent documentation for our RSP teachers. Okay. We know that now is tedious, assuming. We've been working with the district, and they're going to put out an updated version of guidance to simplify that process. Okay, that well-agent documentation. Okay, so as soon as we have that simplification, that updated version of guidance, we will get it out to you. Okay, that's number one. Number two, on special education, special education administrators, special education clerks, and admins are being trained in IEP. So this is what that means. IEPs with completed assessment required, they are going to proceed accordingly. Okay, once folks are trained and meetings are scheduled. Okay, they have to, because otherwise we will be in a backlog of IEPs of tens of thousands that we just will not be able to sustain, and will might make life very difficult for students, families, and us down the road. IEPs with completed assessments or no assessment required are going to move forward once people are trained and it's scheduled. IEPs with open assessment plans are not going to occur. Okay, the district will provide a statement for the discussion section of the FAPE 2, saying that the offer of FAPE will continue when schools reopen. Okay, so some of the IEPs that have no assessment required completed assessments, they will move forward. The others will not move forward, but a statement will be put into FAPE 2. Okay. And special education teachers, you all are awesome. You all are incredible. You all work with our most vulnerable students, and you're incredible. As these IEPs are being scheduled, we know this puts pressure on you. Use the side letter. Make sure that that average of 240 minutes per day is honored, even though you're going into those IEP meetings. Okay. I mean that you talk to your administrator about getting coverage for your class. We have substitute educators who are being trained in the different distance learning things. It may be that you say to your administrator, I'm going to do these IEPs, but that means I can't do this other meeting. Okay. So make sure you hold to that 240-minute average per day as you do these IEPs. We know this puts a lot of pressure on you. Okay. And then the final thing to say about special education is that we are continuing to push nationally for waivers that make sense. We were on the phone with the American Federation of Teachers and the National Educators Association, Education Association this week about continuing to push Betsy DeVos and the federal government and Congress for waivers that make sense, okay? Waivers that will be monitored and waivers that will then end once this global pandemic, once we're through it, okay? So we're continuing to push on that. Next hot topic, Matrix, okay? It's Matrix time of year, right? People who, the parents out there who are watching about old movies. I'm not talking about old movies. They're very good though. The Matrix is the process for classes for next year. So we are advocating for the same process that is outlined in the collective bargaining agreement, but doing it virtually, okay? The same matrix process. Chapter chairs can and should approach principals about that same collective bargaining agreement process on the matrix, but doing it virtually. And our great UTLA staff, our great area representatives are ready to help you in doing that. So that's the matrix. Next hot topic, chapter chair elections. We're at that time of year, right? And remember, we are going into battle over state budget cuts and needing to press federally for not just corporations to be bailed out, but for public education and social services to be saved. So we're going to need a chapter chair at every single school for that battle, that social justice battle, educational justice battle, that racial justice battle. So there is a form to do this virtually. There's a form that outlines a process of how to do the chapter chair elections virtually. That is going out either today or early next week. So keep your eye out on that. You'll set up an election committee. It will be democratic. It will be transparent. It'll be done virtually. So keep your eye out on that. And then the final thing is just FAQ. We have a constantly updated, frequently asked questions section of our website. Please constantly check that. And we're updating that at utla.net all the time. We've got a lot of great information there. So I'm going to end with this, folks, on this Friday, April 17th. And remember, we're in this together. We're taking care of our family. Last time, our backyard basketball court has never gotten more use. And by the way, on our backyard basketball court, if you shoot from the grass, it's a three-pointer. So our grass is getting a little bit run down there because everybody's taking three-pointers trying to be Steph Curry in my house. But we are going to get through this. We will get through it together. We'll get through it with your families. We'll get through with our students, with our great parents. We will get through this. The side letter, by the way, is being translated into Spanish, the 6-page side letter, so that parents can see it as well. And we will get through this. And part of getting through it is pushing ahead, okay? So I'm going to tell you 3 ways that we're pushing ahead to end my statement here. Frederick Douglass and a whole bunch of people throughout history said there is no progress without struggle. So we keep on pushing ahead. We keep on to make progress for ourselves, our students, our schools. So first way we're pushing forward, just this morning, we sent another demand to the school district. we want to do round two of impacts and effects bargaining of the global pandemic. Okay. What that means is that now that we know that school is closed through the end of the academic year, we are now going to go into round two of bargaining to look at things that we need to bargain for the closing of school, for closing out the school year, right? How people will get back into their classrooms to get things that they need before, all sorts of things like that. So we've sent that demand to bargain letter. We'll be back in bargaining with the district to get a second side letter on things that will be important in terms of closing out the academic year. Second way we're pushing forward, charter co-location fights. I want to raise up Francine Matthews and Shirley Avenue Elementary School. They did a socially distancing protest at Shirley Avenue School. They're helping us push forward. They got wind that the charter that may co-locate at Shirley was being invited onto campus to look at IT issues and technology issues. This was inappropriate. That's not an essential thing. That's not an essential thing that people should be out of their houses doing. And frankly, we don't want those corporate charters on public school campuses. And so what they did is they organized, there were about 75 cars that went out and lined around Shirley Avenue School of people protesting the potential co-location of that corporate charter school onto the campus of Shirley Avenue. The cars surrounded the school, they honked, they had signs, all sorts of things. So we can protest, we can raise our voices during this time, we just have to do it carefully. That was a beautiful, socially distancing, healthy way to protest, and hats off to Shirley Avenue. That's the second way we're moving forward. First way we're moving forward is demand to bargain. Second way we're moving forward is continuing to build our movement like Shirley Avenue. And now I'll tell you the third and final way we're moving forward. Next week, we are continuing to meet with other local unions around the state of California, from Fresno to Bakersfield to San Francisco to Oakland, Richmond, Santa Ana, Anaheim, San Diego. And we have built a great coalition with those unions because we know that the fight against state budget cuts has to be something that is statewide, okay? And so we are working with them. We're meeting with them again next week to push the struggle forward. And the other thing that we're doing next week, virtually, of course, with almost 20 other unions, some in NEA, some in AFT, 20 other teachers unions that have a history of being able to organize themselves and exert power the way that we in LA and the Chicago teachers in Chicago have done. So we're gathering with those folks and with labor community partners, with partners from community organizations, civil rights organizations, racial justice organizations. And the reason we're doing that gathering next week is because we know that for public education to survive and thrive and social services that our students need, it has to be a massive movement on a federal level, not just on a state level. We're going to need federal monies, not just going to bail out airlines and bail out military contractors federally. We're going to need social services and public education helped as well. So those are the ways that we are pushing the struggle forward. There is no progress without struggle. Keep your head up. I want you to feel good about yourself. I want you to feel good about the role that you're playing. Hold your head high as an educator, as a student, as a parent. We will make it through this. Be proud, walk with pride, and we will see you next week, LA Strong. Thank you.